Welcome back to you and to me. So this summer I made a little challenge for myself. That challenge was to read 20 of Amazon's best romances. I think that this list came out in the summertime, so maybe June, and it is October. It took me that long to read these books, and I'll kind of explain why as I get into it. But I made some notes because I tried to do this last year and ended up giving up. So there's 20 books. I read them all, literally. I finished everything. And the order that I'm going in is the order that Amazon, their editors, go in. Yeah, if you're curious, not that it matters, I got these books through my library, both like digitally and physically. I got some of the audiobooks through Spotify. And what else did I do? Some of these were on Kindle Unlimited. So it's kind of a mix of how I got these. If I remember, I can share it. But I think that if you're not utilizing your library, you should be. If you have a Spotify premium account, please use it for your 15 hours or whatever. I think that I went so long not being able to use it because my app wasn't updated. And I don't really want to think about how many hours I wasted because my app just wasn't updated. Oh, and some of these books I bought also is another thing that I did. So yeah, if you were curious on how I read these 20 books, that's kind of how. So the first book I think is their number one, and I'll kind of read their review for it, which will be interesting. So the first book is This Could Be Us by Kennedy Ryan. Now, I ended up giving this book 3 stars. This is about, and I'm sorry, I'm not going to be able to remember all these people's names, but this is about a woman who is married at the beginning of the story. She has 3 daughters with her husband, and he works for a family-owned business. Small business in a sense, but they are a very successful, some kind of homeware business. And her husband ends up being audited and sent to prison for stealing money from this company. And the man that was a forensic accountant that found their problems that sent her husband to jail, to prison, is the love interest. So it is the romance between these two, where she's kind of struggling with being on her own for the first time in a while, raising her children, having no money. She becomes an influencer. So there's a little bit into that. I don't know. I didn't really love this one. I did end up giving it 3 stars. I feel like and this plays into the book, the heroine was not ready for a relationship. I don't blame her. She just got out of this like 15-year marriage and is finding out all these things about her husband, that maybe he's not the man that she thought he was. And our love interest has been divorced for a while, has a good relationship with his co-parent, and is ready to like find love and to continue to develop a relationship, and she's just not ready for that. So it was hard to read for a lot of this book. And the sex scenes were pretty good, but I guess just their romance was hard to read because it was a lot of him pushing and her pushing back, and I didn't really love that. It felt a lot like and I told one of my friends this, like a mom getting her life back together, and those just aren't really the books that I love to read. I didn't feel like emotionally connected to her, which I think made this really hard to read. And so this is the number 1 pick for Amazon, and they say a beautifully told, layered, slow burn romance that's about so much more: self-worth, parenting, and friendship. I was swept away. I don't disagree. I think in some ways it's a slow burn, but also not really. I guess when I think of slow burn, I think of it in terms of them getting together, and that really did not happen. It did not take very long for them to get together. It was just her being willing to accept him, I think, which kind of made me not love this book. But I don't want to pull myself away, but I need this chair. Everything fell down. Sorry to my downstairs neighbors. It's only 7:30 in the morning. Okay, the next book on this list is Funny Story by Emily Henry. This is a 5 star. This book is a 5-star for me. I think I would need to reread my top books for Emily Henry to rank this, but God, I loved this. I really liked this book. So we're following, because I have it in front of me, Daphne and Miles. And Daphne is engaged, and on her fiance's bachelor party, his best friend tells him that she's in love with him, but his best friend has a boyfriend, and they break up with their partners to get together. Daphne and Miles end up living together because he needs a roommate. She gets wine drunk and RSVPs for a +1 at their wedding, and asks and tells her ex-fiance that she's taking Miles. And this is just them, their romance. It was heartbreaking at times, and it made me laugh, and it made me cry, and then immediately made me laugh. This was so good. I really loved this book. He was so kind, and you got to learn about him as she learned about him, and I thought that they were so sweet. I felt so much with this book. I really enjoyed it. I think that saying that I liked this one, and I guess a little bit spoilers, I didn't like People We Meet on Vacation. I thought that the miscommunication that they use in that book, that doesn't work for me, and I know that's a lot of people's favorites, and I think that if you like that book, I guess you wouldn't like this one, but you would like a book that comes up later in this video. I really enjoyed this one. I woke up in the middle of the night and was reading this because I couldn't fall back asleep, and I think like immediately texted my sister that she needed to read this. This one did something for me. This one really did it for me. I really enjoyed it, and I'm happy that I bought it. I think I own, it's pink. It's pink and I love pink. But I think I own all of Emily Henry's like adult contemporary romances. Okay, I'm back. My camera died, but I cannot be stopped. Okay, so we're 2 books into this. I don't even know how long I've been talking. But the third book on this list, Just for the Summer by Abby Jimenez. So in this book, these two meet online because they share similar experiences to people breaking up with them and then finding their true love. So they decide to date just for the summer. She is a travel nurse and goes up to Michigan, I think. I can't remember, honestly. It could be this one is set in Michigan, but it could be that one is also set, or I could be wrong. But they decide to date for the summer to be like, to knock themselves out of their rut, to be able to find their soulmates after. I give this book 2 stars. And I think it's just an Abby Jimenez thing. This might be the second and last Abby Jimenez book that I read because it just didn't work for me. I did not like the female main character. I think that, and I don't remember who I was, it might have been my same sister. I might have been talking to Merritt, but the male main character is, his mom embezzled from the company that she worked for and is going to jail. So he will have custody of his 3 younger siblings, and she tells him point blank that he's not allowed to be mad about that. And I didn't like that. Her philosophy, she has a terrible relationship with her mother. She's extremely traumatized, but her philosophy is like, just let it go. And I didn't like that. I felt like it was really diminishing what he was going through and really took me out of the story. I think that in Abby Jimenez books, the female main character really just beats down on the male character, like emotionally, and they're allowed to go through all this stuff and they kind of have to just deal with it, and I don't really love that. This book wasn't for me, and there are some other ones on this list that aren't for me, and that's okay. I'm gonna stop reading Abby Jimenez books because I don't think I like them. So, sorry. I think that's an extremely unpopular opinion, but I just don't like her stuff. I don't like it. So yeah, sorry girl. Okay, the next one is Summer Romance by Annabelle Monaghan. I also gave this book 2 stars. This is another one, or this is another book about a divorced mom who is kind of getting her groove back, and that just kind of missed me. I think that if this book had been women's fiction instead of a romance, it would have been a lot better. Yeah, we're following a character who's a mom, and her dog pees on this man. And they kind of get to talking. He's the first person that she's been interested in after her divorce, after her mom died. And it's about them coming together, and I just didn't really like it. This one was not very good to me. Yeah, I didn't really like this. This one I honestly have no thoughts about, unfortunately. Yeah. I wish I had more to say, but I really don't have anything to say about that one. Next book, The Paradise Problem by Christina Lauren. This book is about two former college roommates, but they were roommates in family housing. So they literally got married so that they could live together in a cheap apartment, basically. And they sign it, and after 5 years, they'll get divorced. I don't know. I think she gets some kind of money from it, but before the 5 years are up, he comes back and says that his sister, I think, is getting married, so she needs to go with him because he told his family that he's married. This book I really enjoyed. I really liked this. People have compared it to The Unhoneymooners, and maybe, but I have an unpopular opinion that I don't think that book ended very well. They're literally gaslighting her, and then nobody apologizes. Like, there's literal gaslighting in that book, and it never gets resolved. But this one I gave 5 stars. This was the same thing where I was laughing. They had so much chemistry together, and I really felt it. His family is terrible. They are so terrible, but she was funny, and they were funny together, and she had good relationships with her friends, that it was like he had this horrible family, but they still had good relationships with other people, that it didn't feel like it took too much away. So I really liked that one. I thought that was very good. Okay, This Summer Will Be Different by Carly Fortune. This is the first book that I've ever read by Carly Fortune. This is about a girl who goes to, I guess, Prince Edward Island in Canada with her best friend. But she ends up going early, and her best friend's one rule is like, don't fall in love with my brother. She goes up the day before her friend, meets a guy in a bar, they hook up, and then when she wakes up, she realizes, like, this is my friend's brother. And every summer, they meet up, and like, it's kind of like a will they won't they say that they're not going to hook up, and then they end up hooking up. But this particular summer, her best friend is supposed to get married, but she's acting really weird and tells her to meet her up on the island, and her friend's brother have like a weird tension, and it's like, it's bouncing back and forth in time. So you'll do one summer and then the present, and then the next summer and the present, and the next summer and the present, until the bad summer comes up, and you're like, what? Where it was just a ridiculously stupid miscommunication was the reason that they weren't together. I don't know. I give this one 3 stars. I would probably bump it down to like 2.5 or a 2 star, to be honest. I didn't really like this one. I thought it dragged, and it was kind of boring. But I've never read another Carly Fortune book. I've heard that this is not her best one. So I have a hold on, I think, her first book, whatever. They're all summer stuff. Every Summer After. So we'll see. But, I mean, the setting was fine. I wasn't a big Anne of Green Gables girl, so that did nothing for me, but that's big in this book, and I think it might be big in the other books because it's all set on Prince Edward Island. So, interesting. I don't know. Okay, the next book. Look, this is another author that I need to stop reading. I need to stop reading these books, but something will happen and it pulls me back in, and then I hate them. And for this one, it was this piece of fan art that they advertised with the book. King of Sloth by Anna Wong. What even is it? It's a billionaire, his publicist romance. She has like an Ice Queen persona, but I feel like they did it a little bit better in whatever this book was. that I think did it a little bit better. That's the romance. He's a millionaire and she is his publicist, and they have sex. That's it. There's no plot to this. You're supposed to feel depth from both of them, I guess, because that's the point of books, right? But I didn't feel it. And I didn't like it, and I have to be done with her books. I can't keep reading them. I think I gave Twisted Love like 3 or 4 stars because of the camp. But the problem is, I think that I'm supposed to take it seriously, and I just can't. Okay, next book I do also own. I got this one. I think I pre-ordered it, and then read it on a plane next to my mom while we were going to Florida. Bride by Allie Hazelwood. This was fun for me. I am at my core a paranormal romance girly. I am a paranormal romance girly, let me tell you. I have 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14 of the Black Dagger Brotherhood books. There's like 20 in this series. The first book will be my, what do you call it? Holy Grail. It's my Holy Grail. Girl, the amount of Googling that I had to do to find that. The first book in a hardcover is so out of print that people are selling it for $1 million. This is my Everest. Getting that book, that's how you know I made it. Buy that book, I could die tomorrow. Bride by Allie Hazelwood. I think that I've read most of Allie Hazelwood's stuff at this point. Someone has said like Vampire and STEM is still in this book, which I think is funny. But I did end up giving this book 4 stars. It dragged a little bit for me. I don't think it needed to be that long, but because their names are here, we have Misery and Lo. Misery's a vampire and Lo is a werewolf. And for some reason they do like a trade to uphold their alliances so they get married. But she thinks that they like traded his mate away, but is less of a martyr, I think, than she comes across. So she did this for a reason. She's not big, like she's like a vampire princess pretty much. But she didn't do this like for family. She did this for another reason. I found this pretty interesting. The second book, or I guess is supposed to happen because there was an epilogue that I think leads to a sequel. And the last page is them having sex. So that was funny. Is there another book on this? Oh, apparently I am hungry. Okay, no. I read The Fake Mate after reading this one. This one is better. It is less of a realistic setting that is not. I mean, if you like hospital books, you might like that one. But this, I think, was a lot of people's first experience with nodding. And not to get too into it, because people that I know watch these videos. This was not my first time. This was not my first time. So, this was good. It's horny, which I think all of Allie Hazelwood's books are, but it was still good. I enjoyed it. Kind of a slay. Oh, next book, Say You'll Be Mine by Naina Kumar. I think that's how you say it. This is a contemporary romance marriage of convenience book. This was so cute. This was so good. I read this in like one sitting outside by the pool, just like flipping. This was so good. So we're following our female main character wants to she wants to get married. She wants to let her parents set her up, and our male main character is doing it to make his mom happy, but he does not want to get married. And they have an instant attraction, but he knows that he doesn't want to get married. So he agrees to get engaged, and they'll break up before their engagement because she needs a +1 to her ex-boyfriend / best friend's wedding. And the miscommunication I could have done without. I think that's why I gave it 4 stars. If they would have talked, it would have been better, but the way that they build each other up and make each other like a better person by the end of the book was so sweet, and I really liked this one. I thought that this was like it was somewhat emotional, like it had emotions to it, but it didn't make me super sad. I ended up really enjoying this one. If you haven't read it, I think you should. This has like it has not a ton of ratings, at least on Amazon. I haven't checked on Goodreads, but I really enjoyed this one. I thought this was good. Okay, the next book was You Should Be So Lucky by Cat Sebastian. This is a male-male historical romance set in, I think, the 40s, about a professional baseball player and a reporter. This book, I gave it 4 stars. Honestly, it could be a 5-star. What held it back for me was the axe hanging over their heads. There is very light mentions of, I guess, period accurate homophobia, but there is no people finding out and getting like violent with them, which I was scared of the whole time because they kept talking about it. They kept saying, if anybody finds out. And anybody who did find out was very loving and kind and a normal human fucking being about people being gay, but that was an axe hanging over my head the whole time, and it's kind of scary. But it's like a younger man, older man relationship. It was so sweet. They were so kind to each other, and this was very baseball heavy, but it was so sweet. I really enjoyed this one. I really enjoyed this book. If you haven't read it, I think you should. Another historical romance, Never Blow a Kiss by Lindsay Louise. This one I gave 3 stars. Honestly, I could probably bump it down to 2 stars. There was so much going on in this book. Our female main character is a governess, but she's really a spy, and ends up helping our male main character try to find a murderer. Running around town. She's hiding from stuff in her past. I think that he's just a guy. This was weird. This was a weird one. I don't really know. It wasn't my typical historical romance. I think with the cover, you definitely couldn't call it a bodice ripper. It doesn't fit the cover, but I don't think it fits the genre. I think it tried to be a little bit more emotional and missed a little bit. I just found this one a little weird. I'm not gonna lie. I won't lie to you. As someone who reads a lot of historical romances, this one was like slightly strange. A little strange. Okay. Do I want to talk about this book? No. A Fate Inked in Blood by Danielle L. Jensen. I hated this. This was miserable to read. And I will say, I don't know how or why I got N.K. Jemisin and Danielle L. Jensen confused. I apologize. I deeply apologize for thinking that these crossovered. This was a horrible book. This was a horrible book. It's a, I guess, Norse/Viking inspired romance set in the past where people are like born of the gods and the gods give them powers. She's hiding her powers because there's a prophecy that will like change the world, I guess, in the way that they govern, I guess. She ends up being taken in by like a jarl, sorry, I'm very southern, that was hard to say, which is like almost like a governor, no, like a lord, which is horrible, and I'm sorry that I'm like Britishifying their society, but he wasn't a king, but he controlled part of this, and with her powers thinks that he'll be able to control everything. Like he wants to take over. And her romance is between him and his son. This book was utter shit. This was horrible. This was the first book that I used my Spotify credit for. And when it came to the end, I was like, oh, like I just ran out of my 15 hours. I'll wait a month and finish this book. No, that's how it ended. I feel like it ended mid-fucking sentence. This book was horrible. She was a horrible character to read from. There is no plot to this. That is so boring. It was horrible. I hated this. I think the good news for me is that this will be on the romantasy list, not the romance list. This book sucked. I hated it. And if you recommend it, jail. Go to jail. Straight to jail. What the fuck is wrong with you? I hated that. It was bad. This was bad. Okay, the next book that I read is Fragile Sanctuary by Catherine Cowles. This is a Kindle Unlimited book. So I read it through Kindle Unlimited. It is I think the overarching series is following these like foster siblings. My mom says good morning. Our female main character lost her parents and her younger sister in a fire when she was a teenager, is taken in by her like best friend, mom, and raised with foster siblings. She decides as an adult that she's going to like rebuild the house that was destroyed by a fire using her brother's construction company, and the romance is between her and his best friend because, and I'm doing the quotes on purpose, so I'll explain in a second. He is a former FBI profiler who lost his sister to a serial killer that they never found, and is working with his college roommate. He's so rock / mannequin that to say he had any feelings was a stretch. To say that he could be anyone's best friend, stretch. I guess this tried to be like romantic suspense, but it wasn't suspenseful. The way that it ended and how they connected, which I guess is a spoiler, but are you gonna read this? No, you're not. This has a lot of ratings though. This has 14,000 ratings. I guess it is a spoiler. The same person who burned down her house killed his sister. Why? What are the chances of that? Why? Anyways, 2 stars. Not good. Okay. Oh my gosh. I've been sitting for too damn long. Okay. Next book that I read is A Love Song for Ricky Wilde by Tia Williams. This one I gave 3 stars. It is a, I guess, magical realism romance following Ricky, and his name is Ezra. So Ricky is the youngest daughter in a prominent Atlanta family. They are successful with the funeral home business that they run, but she's not like the rest of her sisters. She's a little different. She doesn't want to be exactly like them, and I think she, being the youngest, had a little bit more space to grow than her sisters were kind of led to believe at the end. So she was always the black sheep, I guess is the best way to put it. She wants to go to New York to open a flower shop. She doesn't want to work for the funeral homes anymore. And when she's up there, she meets a couple people. One of them who lets her rent the bottom floor of her brownstone to open her flower shop, and then the other is Ezra, her romantic interest. And Ezra, it is a man from the 1920s. He's cursed, and his curse is that whenever he finds the woman who's his soulmate, she will die. So it's them getting together and trying to figure out how to keep her from dying. And I think that I could have used a little bit more of that. I think that giving it the brevity, I guess, the briefness of this didn't really work for me. I wish it could have been more detailed because we learned so much about them separately. I wanted to do a little bit more of them together. And that's why I gave this one 3 stars. I enjoyed a lot of this. It was just, I wanted more, I guess is what I could say. The next book is Expiration Dates by Rebecca Searle. I think that's how you say that. This one I gave 4 stars. I ended up really enjoying this. I think it surprised me a little bit. Basically, our female main character gets, ever since she was young, she gets a slip of paper that tells her the name of her future boyfriend and how long they're going to date. She's, ever since she was a kid, has seen these, and her knowing when a relationship is going to end changes her. Like, how invested can you be in something if you know you're going to break up in 2 weeks, in 2 years? But when she's going on a date with someone, there is no day. It just says his name. So it kind of goes from there. I don't know, this one was really interesting. Next book, Love Unwritten by Lauren Asher. Now, I'm going to be honest. I don't remember the plot of this one. This one I gave 1 star. I think that this has killed Lauren Asher for me. I don't think I'm gonna read any of her other stuff. Okay, this is a billionaire single father who has a crush on his nanny. She is an unemployed songwriter hired to watch his son and teach music. His son has a disorder where he is losing his sight, I think it is. This was not good. Retinitis pigmentosa. I guess I don't know. I'm not gonna talk about this scientifically. This was stupid. This was bad. This was not good. I'm not gonna lie. This was bad. That's all that I have to say. This was pretty bad. The next book is The Rom-Commers by Catherine Center. I gave this one 4 stars. I got an arc of this a long time ago. I read this January 14th of this year and it came out in June. It's about 2 screenwriters. One of them, he is like prolific in what he writes, but it's his first time writing a rom-com. I think like he doesn't want to do it for some reason, but people need him to write it, so she's hired to co-write it with him. She has a chronically ill father. She's afraid to leave him to her younger sister, but they end up like convincing her to go, to have her give up this like fear to leave her responsibilities to somebody else. And I've heard this taken in a bad way. I don't think it's meant to be in a bad way. I think it's supposed to show growth, and like fear of letting go, that I've heard people didn't like about that, which I thought was weird. But yeah, I really enjoyed this one. I would read it again. I think it's been so long since I read it, almost 10 months at this point, but I liked it. I like Catherine Center. I've read most of her backlist. I've enjoyed it. This was a pretty good romance to me. I'll be honest, I don't remember this one very much. I think that I disagree with most of the criticism that I've heard, but people said the same thing about her other romance. I guess it came out last year, about the artist who gets face blindness. I don't know. I think I like her stuff. It's okay if you don't, but I do. Okay, the next one I also have. Oh my gosh, my butt. This is The Last Call at the Local by Sarah Grunder Ruiz. I gave this one 2 stars. We are following our main character, Rain, who is a traveling musician. She ends up in Ireland, is robbed and loses all of her stuff, ends up at a bar. The bartender / owner thinks she's cute and offers her a job to like refurbish this bar he inherited from his dad. It's kind of like an old relic and he wants to modernize it a little bit. She has ADHD and he has OCD, and ADHD too, I think, but his OCD is mostly talked about, and it's manifesting in interesting ways for him. He used to be a tattoo artist, but now he is nervous to tattoo people because of his compulsions and his, what do they call them? Intrusive thoughts. I didn't like this. I'm not gonna lie to you. This kind of dragged, and the most romance that we got was them texting each other, and it literally goes in true new moon fashion. May, this is April, May, June, text messages. I'm like, come on. That the most they talk about their feelings for each other is in text messages at the end of the book. I just didn't feel this one very much. I'm lounging now. I don't know if you could tell, I have shrunk. The next book is Swift and Saddled by Lila Sage. This is a sequel, but in a connected series, so you could switch around and read them. It's about, I think they're either in Canada or in Wyoming. They are cowboys up north. The male main character wants to kind of like refurbish a house on his father's land so they can rent it out, and hires an interior designer that the best friend of the first main character knows. They were roommates in college or something like that. It's their romance. I thought that this was really cute. I thought that this was fun. I'll be honest, I don't remember a ton of what happened. It is kind of just a smutty book, but I thought that this was good. It's cute. I liked it a little bit more than the first one, I think, but pretty good. 4 stars. The last book is Love and Hot Chicken by Mary Lisa Hartong. I gave this one 3 stars. It was okay. Another one that I don't really know how much this fits into romance. This was about a young woman, I think she's younger than me, who comes back to her hometown after the death of her father. She kind of takes a break on her doctorate, maybe, or her PhD. Are they the same thing? I didn't finish college, I don't know, but she comes back home after the death of her father and ends up working at a chicken restaurant, and another one of the waitresses she falls in love with. For some reason, they are doing a beauty pageant for the employees of this chicken shop. It was so strange, but also had like really deep depictions of grief and loss after the death of her father, and the things that the love interest is going through as far as like why she came to town. She comes to town to look for her birth mother, and it was really sweet to read about like the way that the town interacts with her and her family and her friend and her love interest. She does have a friend who, I don't know, this was so strange. This book was so weird, I'm not gonna lie, but I think I like it more than other like weird, more women's fiction-y than romance books. I did enjoy this one. This one has, I don't know how updated this is. It says it has 52 ratings on Amazon, which I think is the lowest count. That was 20 books. Those were 20 books that I read. They've put me into a deep reading slump. But let me know what you think. If I had to guess and count as I crinkle, let me go back actually, because I flipped my pages. Which ones do I think are going to be on the Goodreads Choice Awards? I think that we will see Funny Story, Just for the Summer, The Paradise Problem. I think that we could see Bride and the Daniel L. Jensen book on a romantasy list. I wouldn't be surprised if we saw that. And I think that might be it. I think maybe this could be Us and A Love Song for Ricky Wilde. I could see. Kennedy Ryan is a very popular author. I don't think that People Liked This Summer will be different enough to put it on this list. And I think that King of Sloth is too far into a series. I don't think that it'll make it on. Yeah. So, that was 20 books. This is going to be like an hour long, but I enjoyed reading most of these, and I will see you guys in the next video. Bye!